Speaking of flirting and, you know, games, I got my sisters a Christmas present of a T-shirt of me going like, "Hey," and it says, "I have the world's best brother. Ask me for his number." So hopefully, guerrilla marketing will help me find a partner eventually. This is like the last resort. If this sort of marketing strat does not get me anything, it's a lost cause. Hello and Happy New Year! 2021, the first episode of the podcast of this year. We're back after the holidays with another episode. We're going to talk about Soul, the most recent movie by Disney Pixar. Interesting, fun, good times. Welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about movies and drink coffee. With me, Mao. What's up? Happy New Year.
Sup? Happy New Year, 2021. Yikes.
Yeah. We'll see if we're able to tolerate each other for another season of podding.
See. Hopefully we can. I mean, it's nice coming back to it. We have a new look. We have a TikTok now. Hopefully we actually post stuff to it.
Well, I mean, we have some plans of releasing like top 10 movies, a few. I mean, we'll see where it takes us. But mostly clips from the podcast. Maybe some outtakes, maybe some behind the scenes.
Yeah, because we edit ourselves a lot. We're not naturally funny, so it's a lot of finding the right clips.
True that. Okay, broad strokes. How have your holiday break been?
It was fine. It was okay. It was nice. Okay. I had fun with my family.
Yeah.
We've always been very close, so spending time with only them wasn't that hard of a task. I actually really enjoy it. We have a lot of fun, so that was really cool.
No,
for sure.
Ditto. It's been a while since I celebrated New Year's with the family, but I was just like, I feel like the amount of people always also due to restrictions was just perfectly fine with me. It was a good amount of people, and we played a lot of board games personally. It was fun times, but you know, nothing special, and I liked it. It was a good amount of family for a period of time. Over the holidays, though, I mean, it's a bit dated by now, but let me ask you a question. How many freaking... Oh, you might actually know the answer to this, but how many Home Alones is there? Sequels. There's Home Alone 1, 2, and 3. 5? There's 5. Did you know there was a 5th?
I heard about it at some point, but after the third one, which I'm sure I have a bunch of nostalgia for, which is funny because I've after January 1st, I went into this mode of only wanting to watch nostalgic movies to me and kind of like revisit these movies that I really enjoyed at some point in my life.
Sounds nice.
It was. Yeah. But it wasn't.
Okay.
Like
you got it ruined that bad.
Some of them were really good. Some of them were awesome. Like some of them still hold up, and some of them just no. Some of them were terrible. Some of them, the nostalgia was good enough for like the first 15 minutes, and then everything went downhill after that.
Shit.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Home Alone 3 has some nostalgia points to me, so therefore it holds up. I'm saying this because I had I came to my family and like, okay, I'm here. What are we gonna do? Watch movies? Heck yeah. So we saw Elf, and I pitched the idea of watching every single Home Alone, and since they're on Disney, there's 5 of them. The 5th one was actually planned to be the start of a series, so therefore it's very much TV style of a movie. But as you can expect, it's not good.
good.
But we didn't watch it in one night. We saw Home Alone 1 the first night and so on. The second night we saw Home Alone 2. Just to compare them. And I feel like they stack up. If I were to do it quickly, it's Home Alone in quality. Home Alone 1, classic. Home Alone 2, it's cool. But I never got into the New York thingy. I need the elaborate traps. And Home Alone 3 is definitely like, I don't know, there's 3 bad guys and there's a lot of traps. I was cool with that, but there's a lot of nostalgia there that brings it up. Home Alone 4 is the worst one of them all. I'm not recommending Home Alone 5, but it's better than 4. 4 is bullshit. I think there's 2 traps in that entire movie. So I don't recommend having a Home Alone marathon, but I can say that I finally have, so to be able to like compare them to each other, because they are difficult to compare. So I got that going. On top of that, another marathon-ish is The Hobbit. I had never seen The Hobbit until just recently.
No shit.
Yeah. Because I've heard so much bad about it, and I'm not that big of a Lord of the Rings fan. And so, like, it's like, well, if I'm going to see it, I'm just going to be brought down. And because there was so much talk about the 48 frames per second in the film community, and there was so much talk about it's deviating from the books and how one book became 3 movies. They're not bad. Watching them like now, they're not bad. I think they hold up as pre-sequels.
I think my biggest issue with them is that I feel like it could have been 2 movies at max. Like in reality, there didn't need to be 3.
But Hollywood don't do 2.
Yeah. And
it has to be 3,
been 1.
The magic number.
And also, I think there's some part of me that will forever feel cheated that Guillermo del Toro didn't do them, because he was signed to do them.
Did he do that much work on them?
I don't know, but that's not the point.
Yeah,
My point is, I would have fucking loved to see those.
Fair enough.
So I think that's mostly where because I don't hate them, to be completely honest. The thing is, I'm just not that big of a Lord of the Rings fan at all. Like, I enjoy it, and I think it's cool, and I think it's really well made, and I think it's a great story, but they just don't necessarily hook me as much as other stuff does.
No. I think you could say that my expectations were lower, so therefore my appreciation for the movies was higher. But yes, the third movie is definitely too long. So yeah, 2 movies would have been enough. I think 1 movie would have been too much. Then granted, there is a lot of small just things squeezed in there just for, I don't know what reason, fan service, maybe. And then finally, I call them marathons, but they're really just binging movies. I saw Mulan, and the way I went about it is I never saw Mulan as a kid.
The animated one?
No.
I love that.
I know of it, and I know a few songs by heart, but I never saw the full movie in one sweep. So without bias, I saw Mulan Rise of a Warrior, the 2009 movie, Chinese. It's not that great, it's meh. And then I saw the 2020 version, Disney's Mulan. It's meh, it's okay. And then I saw the animated, what is it, 98?
I think so.
Might be wrong. And of course that one is the best one, as expected. I was really hoping that the Chinese version 2009 would have been better than all of them. It's taking itself a lot more serious. I have a lot of opinions about 2020 Mulan. It just falls flat in so many ways. All of them are actually suffering from trying and taking on so many angles at once, with the love aspect, with the protagonist aspect, and it's difficult, apparently, succeeding with the story of Mulan, which is weird.
I saw the 2020 version not too long ago, and I thought it was fine. I think
it's fine. Yeah, it's okay.
It's fine. It's like the live action Aladdin movie that came out. That was fine.
Oof, is it?
It is.
Okay.
It's fine. It's because the thing is,
I will say I did appreciate seeing the cast of Mulan. Aladdin didn't succeed that well on finding an ethnic cast. No?
I think they did.
Okay.
I think it was fine. I think the problem that people have with Aladdin and with Mulan is that there's a lot of attachment to the original animated movies.
Yep.
And we have a hard time assimilating the fact that these movies were not made for us, though. Like, they're not made for us who grew up with the animation films. They're made for the kids who are growing up right now, right? And with those two, that's fine. Those were fine. They're funny. They still have some of the songs. Well, Mulan doesn't. It just has some like throwbacks in the soundtrack. But The Lion King, for example, that I never understood.
No.
Because you and I saw it, and I think we discussed it at some point, but it is actually kind of lifeless. It is really, really cool in its technical prowess and how it was made, and the technology that it, helped create, which now made The Mandalorian what it is. But the movie itself is pointless.
It's more of a remaster than it is a remake.
Yeah.
It's literally shot by shot. No, not every shot by shot, but some shots are exactly the same. And I don't know where the creative whatever comes in with that. Like, what's the reason to make a new Lion King if it's exactly the same?
Exactly.
For a new audience? Yeah. Sure. I appreciate Mulan that they're trying new things and it works, but it's okay.
Aladdin tries it too.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I feel like the one thing I really did enjoy about Mulan was how the fighting choreography was trying to harken back to old school kung fu movies where like there's so much wire work. I've always loved that. Like I know a lot of people find it really campy and kind of dumb, but I think it's so fucking cool.
I don't think they committed enough. It should have been more. I think they were afraid to do it full on, but when they're not, it falls kind of flat, unfortunately.
I agree. There's a lot of like the camera work that I was not entirely on board with, and I was like, what? But why though? There's no reason. Cameras should move. I agree. Camera movement is key if there's a reason behind it, other than that was dope.
Yeah.
I
feel like Mulan 2020 is suffering a bit from who does it appeal to? Who is their target audience? Like what age? Because it's a little bit too gruesome to be the same age as when we grew up and saw Mulan, or too action packed. But it's obviously PG-13 and had to be within those frames. Yeah, it's a bit weak at times.
I think so, but I thought it was not that great.
But with these remasters or remakes of original stories and deviating from the original story and people hating on that, there is definitely a line to tread over. Don't watch Dumbo. I assume you haven't.
No, because I honestly, here's the thing. As a kid, there were 2 Disney animation movies that scared the bejesus out of me. Fair enough. Traumatized me to the point where I was like, I will never actively watch these movies again. The first one was Dumbo. God, I hate that movie. And Pinocchio was the second one.
Ooh,
Pinocchio scarred me.
Yeah.
Like bad. So
it's sad because
when they announced like the remake for Dumbo, I was like, I'm not even interested. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I feel like both Pinocchio and Dumbo are 2 of the best ones, objectively. But yes, I was also traumatized by them. I remember like closing my eyes at exactly the right moment in Pinocchio when I knew I wasn't gonna be able to handle it.
Dude, that scene where the kid, like when they start turning into donkeys, holy shit!
That
shit is dark. It's so fucking like it is,
and the whale
messed up.
Is so evil looking. My point is, Tim Burton's Dumbo, 2019, 18. He's just trying to make a new thing, and I would like to believe that Disney kind of restricted him creatively, and therefore it's not what it could be because it's Tim Burton. How is he able to do such a shit movie? Dumbo is deviating so much from the story, and it's just not good at all for that reason. So they've kind of found a good balance of exploring what the story elements while keeping the heart.
I don't know what's the last Tim Burton film that I've seen that I've enjoyed. like from his recent ones, obviously. You know, like,
well, yeah, fair enough.
he did Miss Peregrine's School for Misfits or whatever.
He did that?
Peculiar Children. Yeah.
Oh,
That was not great.
I was gonna say Wonderland, but the second one is bad. I don't even think he directed
The
that
second one wasn't him though,
one. Okay, that's why then.
which makes sense.
Is that reason enough?
I mean, but if you're saying, you know, the last one that you saw was Alice in Wonderland,
Mm-hmm.
that was 11 years ago.
Dark Shadow was dope.
Like, don't get me wrong, I really, really, really like some of his movies, but he's not one of my favorite anythings, to be completely honest.
But the movies themselves stand out, though.
Some of them.
Oh.
Yeah, some of them. I wouldn't say all of them. Like, I know, for example, I know people fucking love Edward Scissorhands.
Yep.
I think it's okay.
To me, it's all about Sweeney Todd. That shit is great.
I haven't seen it in like really, really long. I want to revisit that one.
Good as a musical too. Emo.
So, one of the movies that I saw in this nostalgia trip that I decided to take was the original Fantastic Four movies. So, like the two that came out in the 2000s. The one with Jessica Alba.
Alba? Is that the one with Chris as a flaming torch?
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. So I saw the first one, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It holds up as a movie of that time. Like, we don't make superhero movies like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were not things that were taken as seriously. So they weren't like dark and broody, or like the stakes never really felt that high. And you know, it was like, it fits in that time.
Okay.
And so I had a good time with it. I was okay with it. It's weird seeing Chris Evans as a Human Torch because it's like, well, wow. But then, because I had a good time with that one, I was like, I might as well try and, you know, sit through the second one. That should be fine.
Is the second one the Silver Surfer, correct?
Yes.
Got you.
The second one is really, really bad.
No, is
like
it?
Yes, it's not. It doesn't.
I remember that to be kind of cool.
Me too. That's why I was like, I'll sit through it. Because I remember really, really liking the first one. So I was like, okay, if the first one held up to that, you know, mixed in with the nostalgia and whatever, then the second one should be fine.
Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't hold up.
Oh,
they did a whole bunch of weird shit, which is weird to me because it's the same director. Like, it was the same guy for both the movies. So I don't understand in what moment did he decide to make all these changes. Mainly, like, he put colored contacts on Jessica Alba and gave her more of a blonde wig. So she looked like a Barbie. That was the point, that she was like, because Jessica Alba has Mexican heritage.
Okay.
So she's like Latina, whatever you want to call it. And so this guy was against it apparently for the second movie. The first one was fine, but for the second one, he like gave her this fucking weird fake blonde wig and then blue eye contacts. And then they like paint her eye blue as well, like the eyeshadow, whatever. Okay. She looks so weird, dude.
Whoa.
She looks weirder than the alien in the movie. Like, and that's not a jab at her. Like, that's like a what the fuck was going on at the time kind of thing, right? Like, I read somewhere that she went on record and she was like, that movie made me want to stop acting. Just because she would have an emotional scene and the director would be like, you did this weird, like, ugly cry face. Could you cry prettier? Could it be, what? You know what? Don't move your face. We'll just put the tears in CGI. Her tears are CGI. It's fucked up, man.
That is really fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if it was the director completely, or if there was any marketing kind of stunt that they were trying to. Whoa! I remember it to be good. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I was sad. I was deeply sad
because the Silver Surfer is a cool character, and I think they.
Yes.
I assume they succeeded with that. All right.
I mean, he's in like 2 scenes.
Yeah, he's not the main part of the.
It's weird. Like, he's amped up to be the villain of the movie, but then they switch it and make it Victor Von Doom again. Like, at the last third of the movie. And it's supposed to be like a surprise twist where, like, he comes to them and he's like, this guy's going to destroy the Earth. So I can't be the bad guy if there's no Earth. So I'm going to help you defeat this guy. And then, surprise, he was never planning to help them defeat the bad guy. Oh my god, it was so bad.
This looks dated. Is it really bad, like 2000, early 2000, like? Because you're always bothered by that.
No, visually it's fine.
Okay, even VFX.
Visually it's fine. There's this weird sequence with like Mr. Fantastic where he's like dancing in a club and he's like flailing with his arms. That one looks weird.
Fine.
But the whole context of that scene is weird, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. It sounds very Peter Parker doing finger guns at people.
It is definitely like that. Yes. I also watched a lot of good shit though, like movies that came out in 2020 and that I kind of accepted the fact that are never gonna come out in Mexico in time for me to see them. So I streamed them. Some of them legally, thankfully, but some of them illegally. Man, there's some good shit out there. Like, I'm excited for my recommendation. My recommendation is fucking dope.
Well, shall we get into it or no? It's time.
Yeah, we can get into it. I don't mind.
Let's do it.
Oh, you want me to start?
Well, you had a perfect segue, but I don't mean to ruin it.
Okay, so you know that I like sad dramas overall. I think dramas are really cool to me. This one's not overly sad, but it is so fucking good, Algot, and I hope that it's as easily accessible to everyone as I think it is. I haven't really looked into it, but it's an Amazon Prime movie, and it's called The Sound of Metal. And it's directed by Darius Martyr, and it stars Riz Ahmed, Olivia Cook, and Paul Raci. Oh my god. I think it's one of my favorite movies that came out last year. And I don't know why I hadn't recommended it because I saw it last year. But the movie is about a heavy metal drummer who begins to lose his hearing at the beginning of the movie, and then he eventually loses it completely. And the movie is about how he kind of comes to terms with this situation in his life, when obviously music is what he loves and his passion, and just how he has to deal with this curveball that life throws at him. And Riz Ahmed, he's in Rogue One for a little bit, but I have never seen him differently than that. But this was fucking insane. Like how good he is. I'm sure he's gonna get nominated. The sound design of this movie, Algot, what the fuck? Like,
it kind of has to, right?
It has to, of course, it has to. But the moment where he starts losing his hearing, it's like sporadically. It's so good in how it puts you right there with him, and it's just like these drawn out moments of silence. And I don't think we'll ever properly know what it feels like to be someone who can't hear, but I think this is as close as we're gonna get, because it's insane just how unnerving it is for everything to suddenly just go quiet. And I thought it was awesome. Olivia Cook, I think you might know her from Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
Yeah.
She's the dying girl.
That's her.
Spoiler alert. And she's amazing too. She's not in it a long time because it's mostly his story and how he deals with it.
Oh, okay.
But just amazing. I thought it was dope. I thought it was really, 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 really good.
It's like one of those stories that work best in true indie format, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Where you're able to be experimental with something like audio design, or you just telling that sort of story just works better when it's kind of raunch or whatever.
Yeah, it has that gritty feeling of like this is an indie movie for sure.
My recommendation is a documentary. I don't know if we've spoken about documentaries before. Maybe not.
We've spoken about them,
but as a recommendation.
But not as a recommendation.
No. That's nice. I'm actually really tempted of watching more environmental documentaries, because a teeny tiny recommendation is Beyond the Reef, or Beyond Coral Reef, something like that. It's really cool how they're documenting coral reefs dying. Super cool. But my bigger actual recommendation is I Am Greta. Also, well, she is an environmental activist of its own, but it's not really about that. Hulu produced it, but if you are Swedish, you can watch it for free on SVT, Swedish television. It's really cool. It works. I would like to call it a biopic, like basically following her journey from about a year ago by now, and how she it's really more about her and the criticism towards her, and kind of answering that to the audience, and how she thinks of how to go about the crisis that we're in. And it's really nice and fairly emotional there at the end. I don't know how you feel about her as a person, or anyone listening, but I'm very positive to her to begin with. If you aren't, I would recommend you to at least watch the little tiny clip with her on the boat, and it's just this long shot of her going through the stages of basically feeling so much weight on her shoulders, becoming this icon of activism as a 12-year-old already, and moving forward now, about to speak at the UN, which is crazy. So there's definitely a few moments from the movie that you could give a shot. But if you're interested, definitely watch the full documentary. It's really nice and beautifully shot, actually.
Sounds really cool. And I think it's funny that for our first episode of the year of the new season, we're going as film schooly as we can. Like, we're recommending a really indie movie and a documentary. It's like we're gonna lose half of our viewership.
Nah, you know what you signed up for. Because now we're gonna talk about one of the most appreciated movies as of late, Pixar's new film. Cool stuff.
Now we're gonna talk about Soul, the new Pixar movie directed by Pete Docter. It stars Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey as the two main characters of this movie, which is about Joe Gardner, who's a middle school teacher who loves jazz. He's a jazz musician. The movie starts with him teaching class, and then he gets his big break, the one that he's been waiting for his whole life, and then he dies. The rest of the movie, we spend it with him and Soul number 22 as they try and get Joe back into his human body. Quick review, Algot. What did you think about it?
It's deep, man. It's deep. If you thought Inside Out had big, heavy meaning, and especially how Inside Out works so well as a child's psychology. You know what I'm talking about? Like how if children today who saw Inside Out as kids it's such a good way of putting how feelings work. Soul, in a similar way, has a good way of teaching people, I would say, because it's kind of deviating more from your typical child movie, kids movie. Kids movie is a better word. It's not unkid friendly, but it's works just as well for an adult as for a kid in its theme with its message. It's a little bit more on the serious note in that sense, but it's cool. It's very nice. And I think that a kid, especially seeing this film, I myself was very inspired by the end of it, of like finding my life's purpose and get going in life and so. Maybe it speaks a little bit of the time that we're in as of now. What about you? What are your thoughts and feelings?
Well, I think it's important that you bring up Inside Out because Pete Docter also did that.
Dude, he's probably the best guy they have at Pixar. He made Monsters Inc. It's one of my favorite, man. Up. Wall-E.
I like Brad Bird more.
Wall-E, though.
You know.
Oh, no.
I don't think he did Wall-E. Did he do Wall-E?
Yeah. Maybe he only produced it.
No. I think he just produced it.
Wall-E. Oh, yeah. Andrew Stanton did Wall-E. Well, then I'm unsure of.
I think my favorite person at Pixar is definitely Brad Bird. Like Ratatouille and The Incredibles are simply too important to my childhood.
Yes.
But and here's the thing, don't get me wrong, Monsters Inc. I love Monsters Inc. I think Up is probably the saddest Pixar movie ever. It breaks me every time I see it.
Sure.
Inside Out was kind of I'm gonna be honest with you, I was a little bit hesitant going into Soul because I didn't like Inside Out as much as everyone else did.
Okay.
After watching Soul, I think I might need to revisit Inside Out. Because I will tell you this about Soul. I did not necessarily enjoy Soul as much the first time that I saw it. So I've seen it 2 times now. It is officially the second movie, like the second animated movie that I would rather watch in English rather than in Spanish. I think it works better. I think a lot of the no pun intended, but a lot of the soul of the characters comes from their voice acting and what these actors brought to it.
So you saw it in Spanish first?
Yeah, I saw it in Spanish first with my parents and stuff. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it more the second time, and I think it's really well made. And I think it talks about a lot of important stuff. I think even though it is aimed at kids, and there's parts of the movies that we'll talk about when we get into the spoiler section that I 100% understand that, it's a kids movie and that had to be like that. A lot of this movie is aimed towards, older people. And it's like,
yep.
It was a weird moment of thinking like, holy shit, It's been a little while since animation has made this much sense to me,
All right. Cool.
So yeah, definitely enjoyed it more on a second watch. I would recommend you watch it.
Oh yeah.
In English mostly. I think it's important. I think it's important because of the African American heritage and the culture that they're trying to capture. I think the original voice actors are the only ones who can truly give you that experience. So let's get into the spoiler talks.
Spoilers? Oh no. Those are on cars, right? On the back of the car?
Actually, before we get into the whole spoilers.
Oh, no spoilers. No cars.
I think I want to talk about Pixar for a second because I really think I appreciate the shit out of everything that they do as a company.
Yes.
To create a movie, right? More than the fact that they take so much time and care to really put together the story in the best way possible. It's also that they care enough to do certain things that other studios, other film, whatever you want to call them, don't do. And Pixar does it, right? So for example, for Soul, Pete Docter is the director, but he also has a co-director called Kemp Powers, and he helped write the script. He's the person who kind of really shaped Joe's character into what he is. And they also, in Soul and in Coco, which deals with Mexican culture and Mexican heritage, they have a culture trust, which is basically Pixar employees who come from the culture that they're trying to capture in this film. So in this case, African American, in Coco's case, Mexican culture. And it's like, they would just sit down and they would talk to the director of the film, and they'd be like, this doesn't really feel authentic to what we do, or this would, or try this and try that. And I think that through those collaborative methods is that they really, like, that's why Pixar is Pixar. Like a lot of people, like Soul came out and everyone was like, dude, why is Soul the best animated picture of the year if it came out the last week of the year? And a lot of people are starting to think that mainstream audiences just enjoy Pixar because it's Pixar, but I think it goes way deeper than that, man.
Yeah, I feel like the Disney movies are still getting all of the credit. I don't remember what last Disney movie was, but maybe like Wreck-It Ralph 2 or something.
Probably.
I feel like those are hyped up and marketed especially way more than all the Pixars. Maybe I'm biased because I see myself as a Pixar fanboy, but they are special. And I always feel the need to differentiate Pixar from Disney because they are on a different level.
Yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, I really like other styles of animation and other animation studios. If you're looking for a really, really good animation to see that came out last year as well, that is really well made as well. It's called Wolf Walkers, and it's on Apple TV Plus. I think it was great. I had a lot of fun with it. But like you said, Pixar really they're on another level. They have the resources, they have the talent, and they have the care for all the projects. Well, maybe not all of them, because there's movies that I don't enjoy, but for most of them, they do their best.
But like, it makes sense, right? To have people come in and comment on the things that don't make sense. It makes sense because it makes it feel more real, be more real. There's no reason why that shouldn't be done in the first place.
I agree. I don't know. I feel like they figured out what works, and they just keep putting people to shame in terms of how they craft a story.
They're such good storytellers. It's insane. And even their shorts, I've been binging almost all of them. Or I've seen all Spark shorts. They're so good.
I love those.
Insane.
Anyways, now we can get into the spoilers, because
Spoilers.
There's a bunch to talk about in this movie.
Okay. Jazz.
So,
jazz?
I feel jazz is everywhere nowadays. Like,
right?
I feel Whiplash, and then La La Land, and then this, and then
I'm not upset. I love jazz, and it works so well.
Jazz.
Yeah. It's so nice. Though I feel like there could have been more jazz in this one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm not one to necessarily pay much attention to score or such, but there were score purely jazz. But if they would have gone full Whiplash and everything would have been jazz, I wouldn't have minded. I'm not sure if it would have added anything, but it definitely would have heightened the jazz aspect of it, but it would be a slightly different tonality to it, I guess, or at least to the score aspect of it. But jazz is able to do melodramatic it's able to be melodramatic as well. But for those moments, they chose to do a more traditional score. And I was like,
I will
commit to the jazz part, please.
I think you should listen to it again, because it's anything but traditional. I'm happy that you brought it up, because I think the music in this film is fucking genius. So for the jazz aspect of it, John Batiste composed and arranged most of those, and then for everything outside of the jazz, they hired Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who constantly work with David Fincher. They did Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and The Social Network and Gone Girl. And I love that they chose them, because the soundtrack, that like the music that they added to the film is mostly for the ethereal, otherworldly, the great beyond, all that. That's them.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was fucking awesome. Like, I feel everyone talks about Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
When it comes to composers, like film composers.
Of course.
But dude, like, these two guys are amazing. Johan Jorgensen is also amazing. Like, he did Tenet. Like, he did The Mandalorian too, but he did Tenet, and Tenet is just it's been on repeat for a while.
Dude, I dare I say it, I feel like Göransson is getting up there. He's the next Zimmer almost, in many ways.
Yeah, I think it's insane. I think he's so good.
He might be a bit too whack. Zimmer is a little bit more composed, I feel, in his composing. Man. What about acting, though? Woo, dude.
Acting.
Jamie Foxx as Joe Gardner, our main character. Tina Fey as 22, our second lead, basically. Hilarious. The fact that she makes a... What does she say? Is this like a middle-aged woman? Or like, why is my
middle-aged
voice...
white woman?
No, she's able to pick her voice, and she chooses a middle-aged white woman specifically, no? Just because people find it annoying. That's hilarious. My favorite one is definitely Richard... How do you pronounce that? Ayoade. As Soul Sorter. Just because of the IT crowd. Love it. But he works
just
so
as what?
The IT... Soul Sorter is one of the Terrys.
Oh, he's one of the Terrys.
He's the guy who's assigning 22. I don't know, the one with the British accent.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about now.
I love the dude. No, it's funny. It's a very small cast, though.
It is.
Not a lot of characters on screen. But solid, still.
Yeah. No, I think, honestly, it holds up, and that's why I liked it more the second time. I think Jamie Foxx did an amazing job as Joe. Like, I think a lot of people are used to Jamie Foxx right now being like kind of like a badass.
Exactly.
And he has like this very like deep voice, and he's like, he's gonna kill you and shit. But for this, he was perfect.
Yeah.
Just exactly what he needed to be. He hit all the different notes that he needed to hit in order for this performance to work.
He's a bit of a loser with a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And it's...
And I mean, Tina Fey is just a genius.
She's
like,
Tina
I think
Fey.
we established that. She's just Tina Fey. She can't do anything. Like, she can do wrong, don't get me wrong, but she's great. She's great when she has good material. And I loved it. I love her. So let's get started. Wait, actually, before we get into the proper movie, can we talk about the animation, dude? What the fuck?
Okay, go on.
I've never, like, every time that Pixar comes out with a new movie, it's exciting because, again, they have the resources. So they truly do a lot of it, like a lot with those resources. And Toy Story 4 blew my mind in terms of the animation. And
was Toy Story 4 before? So, or which one was the most recent one?
Onward. Onward was more recent.
I guess you're right.
And Onward was beautiful in its own way, but I still think that there's reasons why it doesn't work. And this is, I don't know if you remember, because we spoke about Onward on the podcast.
Yeah.
Go check that episode out if you want to. And I told you that I didn't enjoy how, I don't want to say uncreative, but like unoriginal it all felt.
It felt that way, yes.
Right? Like they had they're Pixar. They're the people who like go the extra mile to create these worlds. And this movie and Coco and what they did with every other one of their franchises, Cars
Except
included.
Cars. What?
Well, even then, the first one was like they created this whole universe around it, right? And like it made sense.
Okay then.
So that's why I never understood why fucking Onward needed to be so basic. I'm sorry.
I'm unsure where Onwards comes into the picture, but usually the way Pixar goes is like they release Monsters Inc. and their the animation is not fully focused on the hair of Sully, but Sully is a main character, and the new engine or something, they did something revolutionary about hair. Simulation, thank you. And then the movie after that, whichever that one, had a lot more hair, and they were fully committed to that. And of course in Toy Story 4 they revolutionized the industry with this new lighting engine and stuff. And you can really see that in Seoul here, especially
you can really see it,
especially in New York when you have the light, the golden hour there around the end, and the trees are scattering the light everywhere. It's beautiful,
dude. Some of the landscapes, like some of the landscape shots of New York City, look photorealistic as hell. It's insane. I loved it. I love how the hair is rendered for all of these characters, because hair is such a big part of African American culture, and it looks so fucking good. That piece of pizza that 22 eats when she's inside of Joe's body, that looks insane, dude. What the fuck? I loved it. I think truly one of the things that I take away from this movie is just that animation is always going to be a medium that furthers storytelling, and we underappreciate it as a society. Okay, so let's get started with the movie. We open up with Joe giving class to middle schoolers, which arguably, is a rough job. It's a really rough one, because he's in a position where he has a passion for music that he cannot necessarily share with all of those kids, because a lot of them don't really care. Middle school is a weird time for a lot of people where it's like you're just not interested in a lot of stuff, especially school related. So
maybe you just need the spark to have the interest or the passion for that specific instrument or genre.
So then after that, the principal of the school approaches Joe and offers him a full-time job, and we can see that he's not necessarily excited about it, because I feel he's in a position which a lot of artists find themselves in, where it's like you have a half-time job, because like a part-time job, because what you want to do, what you really want to dedicate your life to, is close but not close enough for you to not have a secondary job, And here's what I enjoy about Soul and the way that it's constructed. We go from that to him dying in like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's very quick, but not in a way of like, oh, it feels rushed. Just in a way like it goes straight to the point and we know why we're here. The trailer shows that he dies because that's what needs to happen. That's like the inciting incident that happens, and that's what puts the whole thing in motion. And then we get to the great beyond, and I think it's, like you said, I think it's a very Pixar thing to try and explain to a kid what happens after we die. Like, I don't think a lot of people would ever try doing that. Not a lot of studios would do that. And I feel Inside Out really kind of was the first step towards that moment where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, maybe children are more intelligent than we give them for.
Yeah. And maybe it's worth talking about depression and being sad for once. It's normal. And death as a concept, maybe we should talk about it more, like neutralize it a little bit more.
Yeah,
and especially
because it's a very taboo subject,
exactly,
for a lot of people.
And so in some way, they're just able to present it in such an approachable way. It's just, this is how it could be interpreted, or this is one way of explaining it. Super easy. Just watch the movie and then have no problems with dying. No, that's not really the case, but
we'll get to it when we get to it. I have stuff to say about that. But basically, we're there with Joe, and he's like on a path towards the great beyond, which we assume is the afterlife, and it's like this whole, like, it's a ball of light. You know, it's the
tunnel
end
of light.
The tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah. But Joe doesn't want to do that because he just got his big break. He needs to go play. He's going to play jazz. This is his day. He's overdue. So he runs away, and then he falls out of that, and he falls through limbo into the great before. And I think, honestly, the sequence of him falling through limbo is probably one of my favorite things of the movie. I think it was super dope.
Really?
And I think the scoring there is awesome.
I feel like it was weird for the title, or not even the title, the Walt Disney Presents, to come after 15 minutes into the movie. That was kind of like, it took me aback a little bit, but it worked. It was very cinematic.
Yeah. And I think it works because of what I just told you, right? Because we understand that the movie starts when he dies. That's the important part of the movie, right? So I thought it was really well crafted in the sense of, like, they know, we know, now let's get into it. Now this is officially where it's uncharted territory. We don't know what to expect anymore, right?
Good point.
And I think that's probably why I didn't enjoy it as much the first time, because Pete Docter specifically, he switches genres a lot. He's not as easy. Like, we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get further down the movie. But there was a point in this movie where I was like, where is this going, though? Like, what is the next step in this movie?
Yeah.
But for now, let's talk about the great before Algot.
Well, we have Terry. What's the other guy? Jerry? Well, of course, Jerry is in charge of counting all of the souls going into the great beyond, and notices the count is off. There's a soul missing, of course, that being Joe Gardner. Meanwhile, Joe Gardner is, what did they call it? The great
youth seminar.
The
great before. And they're like
the place where souls are trained, born, prepped for life. And Joe is introduced to Terry, who's a big line drawing, and I like the animation style that they are going for.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Basically, souls are approached here, and what's the concept like? How do I put this in a good way? Terry leads them through these small houses and stuff of not personalities. That's a different thing, but in lack of whatever term they use, they are received personalities.
Yeah, like personality traits for sure.
But Terry is unable to fill in the little last box. Check the last box, which is the spark of the soul, the little extra that gets them going, the spark that makes life worth living, or something along those lines. So Joe is, of course, misunderstood to be a completely different dead soul, and becomes a counselor, I think. Mentor.
A mentor, yeah.
And are assigned a soul to help the soul find their spark. And Joe is assigned 22, Tina Fey. and is supposed to help Tina Fey to find her spark, which seems completely impossible because 22 is not interested at all in finding her spark. Somewhere in that big building of possible sparks, I think I understood it as the Pizza Planet truck is hidden somewhere. I saw the ball.
Probably.
I think that's the case. Basically, Joe has plans of utilizing this as a free pass to Earth, as, of course, when you unlock the spark for the soul, you're able to go down to Earth to your body. Joe is unable to do that without that pass and get back to his body and fulfill his purpose in life. That didn't go as planned, did it?
No. So here's the thing. I really, really, really like everything in the youth seminar. I think the youth seminar is the highlight of this movie for sure. At least for me.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree. It's funny. It's really funny and punny.
Yes. It is funny and punny. And I think what's really cool about this and Inside Out, giving it credit where it's due. Exposition is not easy to do in any type of movie. But when you're talking to kids and when it's animation and when you're dealing with themes and subjects that are so not, everyday, quote unquote, it's really interesting how they manage to explain to you how the before and the afterlife works in 5 to 10 minutes, where it's souls come here, they get a personality, and then they need a spark. And, at that moment, Joe confuses the spark with purpose, with passion. And I think that's where, the main theme of the movie is introduced.
For sure.
Where it's us as humans, we're used to saying, oh, we have a purpose, or what's our purpose, or what makes you live. And then the whole movie is about Joe realizing that life is not about you finding a passion and then that passion you giving you a reason to live, but it's about so much more. It's about the simple, it's about the mundane.
Yeah, the living parts of life.
So they do everything they can at the Hall of Everything, and 22 she doesn't care about life on Earth. She's not interested. She's not impressed. And so then she introduces Joe to Moonwind, who's a mystic person of sorts. And they introduce another key part of the movie, which is the lost souls and the zone, and how there's this point between the physical and the spiritual where a lot of people feel like they're flowing, artists, athletes, everyone.
When you zone out.
Yeah.
You're in the zone, rather.
But how too much of that can become an obsession, and then that detaches your soul from your body. And what the... I love that your first thought about this movie and the first thing that you said about this movie is that it's deep.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's just dealing with it's dealing with topics and themes that are so big and that people wonder about forever. These are questions that everyone has asked at one time or another,
It's really existential in every way. What is the spark in your life? What is the purpose of your life? And are you stuck at it? Just the first sequence there with Moonwind when they're saving this hedge fund guy who's just stuck in trading and then gets back in his body and realizes that he has an actual life outside of stock. That's funny. He's probably one of my favorite characters, easily.
Moonwind?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moonwind's
such
great.
A cool, colorful guy.
I love, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves right now, but I love that it's just the humor that they managed to hit is really cool. And obviously I think when you're dealing with a movie that is trying to explain and approach heavy, deep subjects. You need the funny parts of the movie to actually be funny. And so, because otherwise, man, this movie would be fucking depressing.
Yeah. And 22
I love the part
in herself is like almost comic relief throughout. Or definitely is.
Well, up until she also gets really fucking depressed and shit.
Yeah.
But I love when they're already back on Earth and they go visit Moonwind and they like take him out of the zone where he's like flipping his sign and shit. And you cut to him in his boat going through the zone in the spirit world, and he just like gets plopped out of it. It just makes me laugh a lot. I don't know why.
Well, while we're at the subject of being in the zone and such, we see Joe earlier in the movie in the zone playing the piano, really getting into grooving. And of course we have the same sort of visual style while in that realm with the lost souls and all. Of people being in the zone and such. I feel like it's comparable to, but I think it's far from as effective as Ratatouille when he is tasting flavors, you know.
Yeah.
And we hear some jazzy music and how he's combined the cheese and the strawberry, and then we have colors sparking and fireworks flying. Compare that scene to Souls being in the zone. Kind of going for the same visual style, but not at all as intensely. I mean, intensely is the wrong word. They're trying to go way more smooth and sweet with it. But I feel like if you were to compare the two, Ratatouille is definitely succeeding with communicating what they're trying to communicate visually so much better than Soul is. Just nitpicking in a bit, but I feel like we can kind of expect that to be visually amazing as a Pixar movie. So I was actually let down with that. Later in the movie, when he gets in the zone again, it's a different kind of sequence montage. Works better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a little bit...
I think I agree with what you're saying, but I also think it's part of the storytelling. Because if you think about it, the first time that we see him get in the zone, he gets there because he wants to get this gig, right? It's still all about his life's purpose and the fact that his life is meaningless and he's going through all this stuff.
All right,
and then the second time that he gets there, he gets into the zone by connecting with what's truly important with him. And that's why I love that sequence, because he understands that what's truly important in his life is not jazz. Because that whole sequence, that montage, shows him with the people that he loves, shows him doing things that he found joy in, and not one of those frames is him playing jazz, other than the one when he's playing with his dad. But it's more about the fact that he's playing with his dad, right? So, and I feel that's why it's more visually satisfying as well, because it's like his reason for going into the zone is much more profound, and it's much more honest and true to what it should be. But I agree. The first time that he goes into the zone, I was like, that was anticlimactic.
I expected something more, or wanted something more extravagant and popping. But nevertheless, Moonwind is attempting to help Yo get back into his body, who's in a coma, right? It is a coma, like full on.
It is kind of like, for sure.
And then the nurse is there, and they're unable to find the next of kin, and there's the therapy cat trying to help him come out of the coma, which I've never heard of. Maybe that's a thing.
It is.
In order to get back in his body, he simply has to jump through this portal into his body. When he tries that, because he's pre-ejaculatory. Is that a word? No. He jumps too quickly and ends up in the cat, drags 22 with him, and Cat is in Joe's body now. What a conundrum. They're back on Earth,
that's
at least.
That's where the movie lost me. The first and the second time that I watched it.
Whoa. Because this is when the movie gets really fun to me.
I'm not saying it doesn't get fun.
Okay.
It's fun. But this is what I mean, where it's like, I understand that the whole physical comedy that comes with like a Freaky Friday situation of a body swap, that is purely for the children. I understand it completely. I'm not saying it's not well done. It is brilliantly done. And I laughed through that whole segment of the movie. And I understand that everything that happens leads to important parts of the movie, like, you know, him realizing everything that he realizes and the conversation that he has with his mom.
Yeah,
but
no,
it's just like
that. I agree with the fact that it's a cat and a body switch. Yes, that is a bit meh. It's yeah.
Because for me, it's like it's twofold. On the one hand, the cat looks weirdly more like a cartoon than the souls do. Like, I don't know why, but the cat is just too cartoony.
You think
first,
so?
Where it's like, at first, yes, 100%. It's too much like a Tom and Jerry situation, which is fine. It's an animation movie. I'm not bitching about it. I'm just saying it's like, you go from, you know, you have great animation at the start and you have all this like really rich details, scenes in New York City. And then you go into the ethereal world, and that's, you know, original and exciting, and you don't know where it's going to go. And it's about like the youth seminar and the Jerry counselors and how they're animated, and everything feels so fresh and so much more exciting than the moment that they go into this body swap thing where it's like, I have seen this a lot. And I'm not saying it wasn't well made. It was really, really well made, and I really enjoyed it. But the first time that I saw the movie, it was like, okay, I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, and I hear you. It might very well be excused because it's for the children, as you put it. I feel like it's not that it justifies itself, but at first the cat body switch thingy was kind of uninteresting, but I would say up until after the saloon, I was okay with it, especially up to the point where he's confessing to his mom, and that entire how that plays out is really nice. But at first, it feels kind of disappointing that they ended up in that situation. Absolutely.
Because it's like, I understand why it happened, and then I understand that it leads to very, really awesome scenes of storytelling. Like them in the barbershop, I love that. I think Pixar managed to do something truly so specific to African American culture, and yet allowed us to peek inside of that. And I thought it was really well made. And then the scene with his mom and the conversation that they have, amazing. It was really cool as well. And I get that to get to that, we had to go through everything else, right? But it's still like, in the moment, it was kind of like, oh, okay, all right, let's do it then.
No, but that's a good point, that 22 is acting as a bridge for us to kind of like be allowed into the life of Joe, and how we were introduced to how he is living life incorrectly in the small details in many ways, if that's fair to say. I'm sorry, Joe, but you gotta live, man.
And I feel the really, really cool part about this movie is how it takes the structure of what it would usually be the hero's journey and starts kind of, it pushes it forward in the sense that a lot of movies would make him getting this audition and getting this gig and all this stuff kind of towards the end, because that's like the high point, right? Like that's him. Like he was a loser at the beginning of the film, and he's trying to get to this point where he's like so close to being a musician, but he's also so far away. And Pixar's like, no, we're gonna start here, and then where other movies would make it really happy, which is like right after the show and right after he completed his goal, they make that the low point of the movie, where it's like, maybe what you dreamed of all of your life is not exactly what you thought it was going to be.
And who could have foreseen that, right? They're breaking the stereotypical format and making it so much more interesting, therefore. I'm not sure, though, if the flow is broken up. Not completely, but it's definitely different from what you're used to seeing. So it has a different flow after like the midpoint of the movie. It's taking turns that we're not used to seeing, but I didn't hate that. I felt like the pacing was strong enough to keep us moving and keep us interested.
For sure.
I agree. Because then we had conflict with 22 being abandoned.
Which is, first of all, before we like, they get caught by Terry, and they get brought back to the spiritual world, and then, you know, Joe and 22 get into a fight, and they notice that 22 has finally completed her badge. She can officially go live on Earth, and Joe's a dick about it. So 22 throws her badge at him, and he comes back to Earth. And he, like, goes to his gig, and it's everything that he's ever wanted for that moment. And then he comes out, and he understands that. And this is like you said, it's so counterintuitive to the structure that we're used to.
Right?
We have seen so many movies where it's like, it's about your passion. It's about the thing that you love. If you love your job, if you love what you do for your job, you will never work a single day in your life. And I think it's really brave from the guys at Pixar to try and break through that idea, because that idea is bullshit, right? Work is always going to be work. There will be days where you love it and you enjoy it and you're where you want to be, but there's also going to be days where you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore, no matter how much you love it. And it's important that we, and I say we because I'm like starting to riff, I guess, but as young people, like young adults, people in their 20s, we are starting to find our jobs. We're starting to find our place in society. And I feel that some of us might have a conflicting idea when it comes to our passion, because since no one has ever told us that sometimes passion is not enough, and that sometimes there will be moments in your life, like Joe, where you accomplish something that you've thought for a really long time will fulfill you and will give you the answers to life, and then it doesn't. I think that leads to a lot of midlife crises.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really interesting that they're taking the time to be like, kids, life is not about your job. Yeah. Life is not about your passion. Life is about so many more things.
Yeah. And it's the fact that there are many things. It's not like life is so much more than just this one thing that is jazz. It's all of the smaller things, all of the relationships that you build, all of the bagels that you eat, and important things that you value. Creates hilarious moments when Joe is approaching Jerry back at the Beyond, when he's like, "Oh, where did you get that from?" No, that's a complete misconception.
Yeah.
But even more so, like that lady, the gal with the saxophone, her analogy with the fish and stuff. I'm like,
so good.
I'm looking for the ocean. This isn't the ocean. This is water. I want the ocean. So good.
So good.
Again, this movie's deep, man.
It is. And I feel like We're really at a very good time to hear what the movie has to say, you know, like we don't need to necessarily include everything because like it might be too personal, but I've had moments where you obtain a goal, right? And you set yourself up for this and you're like, this is going to change my life. And then it doesn't. And you're like, well, what is it? Is it that this is not my passion? Did I choose the wrong passion? Did I choose the wrong path? Am I too far in? Am I supposed to, you know? And it's because we've been trained so much to this fucking idea. And like, I don't know for you because you're a European person and you're also very different than I am.
Yeah.
But as someone who's grown up so close to the United States where people truly live for their jobs instead of working to live, it's really interesting those moments when they come because, you know, it's happened to me a couple of times. The first time we were halfway through film school and I was like, I fucking hate this. Like like, and you go into this state of mind where it's like, maybe I did choose wrong, right? Like maybe this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it's simply because of this thing that the movie's trying to break through, which is just look at everything else in your life, not this whole, like this thing, this external thing is not going to give your life a meaning, a purpose. It's not going to give you a reason to live. That you have to find on your own with the people around you, with the moments that bring you joy, you know, outside of that.
And I think that the movie could speak to all people. Maybe you are completely invested in your work, you love your work, but within that, there is definitely different aspects that are seemingly less enjoyable, but the moments that you will remember yet. So I hope and I think, I believe that the film works for everybody in one way or another, as well as it seemingly worked for the both of us. So like this is the climax has all it could be the climax, I don't even know, because the format is weird, but the latter part of the movie, and of course the more dramatic part, we got Joe. He's sitting down with his piano and he's figuring out what his purpose, spark, whatever they use for terminology is. It's beautiful, it's melancholic, it's nice and it's floofy and everything. He's brought back to the great before 22. He approaches her and is trying to save her from the obsession of being a, what did they call him?
Lost soul.
A lost soul. It's deep, bro. And all of that. But did you cry? Because one of the things that Pixar always succeeds with, maybe not the sequels to the movies, but Pixar, great storytellers. I always cry to Pixar movies. Inside Out, especially. I've never cried as much to Inside Out, which was interesting to me because I have no relation to that character at all. So they succeeded well. Yeah. There's no moment of crying in Soul, and that's kind of disappointing.
Which is interesting because I've heard that a lot of people cried, and the first time that I saw it and I didn't cry, I was like, well, I guess I'm right in thinking that it's not as good as other films. Watching it a second time, did I get closer to crying? Yes. But it didn't necessarily.
But it's not sad in the same way. It's just, I would say, inspiring rather.
Because it's not sad, right? No. The moment where I think people could cry is not necessarily sad. It's terrifying though. Like when we go into 22's lost soul, that sequence is that I can see that being as terrifying to someone as Pinocchio is to me. Because
yeah,
dude, it's rough.
huh.
It's like it is a really accurate representation of what self-doubt is, right? Because you're hearing everything that people have told 22 that she has now internalized and says to herself.
Yes.
We never hear it from others. In that moment, when her fears have taken, have overtaken her, it's her who's saying those things. And it's such a powerful moment of like self-doubt, and truly where it's like, I've been through that, right? Because when you think about self-doubt and when you think about moments that put you down, you don't replay things that other people say to you. You say those things to yourself, right? Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not creative enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not whatever. But it's always like an internalization of what other people have insinuated about you, or who have straight up told you to your face, I guess.
Yeah. And you make it your reality. And
yeah,
especially the fact that they are so hung up on it and it's repeated over and over, and you just brood yourself into a sad being.
And I love that for most of the movie, she, like, 22 shrugs it off, and she like jokes around about it, and she's like fine with it, and because it's real, right? A lot of everyone, I would say, tries to shrug things off and to play it off as it's cool and like, ha ha ha, we're all laughing together. But those things stick with you. Those things, words cut deeper than a lot of physical wounds, I would say. And I thought it was a really good representation of that mindset. I thought it was deep. I thought it was really deep.
Yet with the way the movie wraps up, here's my issue with the ending, or the...
Oh, you have an issue with it too?
Yeah.
Good.
I was afraid of being alone.
Yeah, I thought it was just me.
I don't feel like it's cheap or anything. I definitely didn't feel cheated. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. It wasn't as climactic as it could have been, maybe.
Yeah.
But the climax was more spread out over the latter part.
Yes.
It left me with a great feeling, and ever since the montage of him being in the zone to the last shot of him living life to the fullest as he's getting another chance by Jerry. Hilarious, by the way, how he's, I look over there, and then he changes the counter. That's a funny gag. The way I left, quote unquote, the movie theater, which was my couch, it was great. You know the feeling when you leave the movie theater. You went in when the sun was out, and you walk out and it's pitch black, and you're just like, cozy feeling.
Yeah,
I had that leaving. So very typical for a Pixar movie to leave you with a positive, inspiring, exciting feeling, all the good stuff. But I was missing any big like importance. The message, of course, was clear enough and everything, but it didn't stick with me. It was just a feeling and nothing more to me.
I felt cheated.
Oh shit.
Oh, I felt cheated. For sure, 100%.
For the same reasons, or are we...
Similar reasons. For me, it's like, I think for every single thing that Pixar did in this movie to be bold and to, go the extra mile, they pussied out at the ending.
Shit.
Because they even set it up and I've looked into this, and they were gonna go the whole mile and have Joe die at the end of the movie, and then they backed out of it. And I say backed out because they plant it. The seed is there. The seed is there when he gives the past back to 22, and she goes, but that means that you won't be able to live. And he says, I've lived, and now it's your turn.
It's the ultimate sacrifice, and it's kind of beautiful. I would be okay with that.
And it's not even a sacrifice, man. It's like, that
he's okay
would
with
be
the life
the
that
end of his
lived.
character's journey. Exactly. Because then it means that he actually grew as a person. That means that he's finally understood that his life was not meaningless and his life was not pointless. He has made peace, and he has understood the lesson. And I understand that as a kid's movie, you need to promote this idea of second chances and whatever the hell you want to call it. But I think the true ending would have been him dying. If you're not going to give me that, then at least give me like a fade out 10 years later thing where Joe is still giving class, but now he's really happy giving class. And then a girl comes into his class and you see her eyes and it's 22 and it's like, okay, I get it. There's resolution. There's like something else. Just leaving it open-ended with, I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I think it's a fucking cop-out because first of all, because if he had truly understood his lesson, he wouldn't have needed a second chance. So this whole idea that I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to live my life to the fullest, that's crap. It's crap because people like, I don't know. That's just my thoughts. That's just my feelings. I think he should have died.
I like the open-endedness. The last shot is a good last shot. If he like it would have been very morbid if he would have died. It would have left you with like a good state of mind and everything. It would have made sense, and he wouldn't have hurt because he's literally starting to float away, I believe. And he's about to die.
Yes, he closes his eyes. He's ready to accept his fate. He's told 22, you know what, man? Like I lived my life. I've done the living. It's time. And so they cheaped out the motherfuckers.
So in that moment, I was okay with it. But ultimately, it is a better ending for the movie's sake, I think. For me, I don't know what I was missing. I was just in the right mindset. Ratings, final thoughts. As a final thought, I'm on the fence whether or not So is to be placed on my escapism list. You know the list where...
Is it too real?
Ooh. Maybe, yeah. It's very real, and it puts you in a good mood. But maybe. Basically, the list with just feel good movies that aren't as complicated, yeah. But it definitely checks all the boxes. But I'm not sure if it's really really gets you inspired to live. But there's just something missing, and I'm unable to put my finger on it, truly.
Yeah.
I think it's theme somewhere misses me. But I'm excited to give it a rewatch, and it might very well be one of those that just gets better and better and better a little bit by each rewatch. And it's deep, man. That's my final thought.
So what's your rating?
3.5 out of 5.
Cool. I think I love the animation, and I think I love the score as well. And I think that it touches on a lot of things, and I agree that it might be a little bit too real. Especially, it might be just because of where we are in our lives right now.
Yeah, it very well could be.
2020 is a thing that we all live through, and like you and I have spoken before, it's not that 2020 was the worst year of my life, but it did put a lot of things into perspective because you're locked up and you have a lot of time to think, I guess.
Mm.
But I feel like for everything that it did right, it did left me wanting more out of the ending. Like, I really, really think that should have been a different ending. Just saying.
Yeah.
But I did like it more the second time. So the first time that I saw this, I gave it a 3.5 stars out of 5. And rewatching it, I am comfortable and happy with bumping it up a little bit. I'm going to give it a 4 stars out of 5. Yeah.
Dope. I can see myself doing the same.
Yeah. Check it out.
It's
if
cool.
You're still here with us, check it
Rewatch
out. It's
cool. And with that, our conversation of soul is over, and our cup of coffee is over. Why don't you, Mao, hit us with the social media and shoutouts, etc.?
Alrighty. We have Letterboxd. Follow us there. We watch plenty of movies that we don't get to talk about here. You know, for the sneak peeks of what is going on in our lives. We launched a TikTok over a month ago, and hopefully by the time that this episode is live, we have posted some content on it. Go over there if you want to check out some behind the scenes, some outtakes, you know, all the fun stuff. Maybe we do a couple of polls for movies that we're going to watch. You can find out when you follow us. We're on every single podcast platform that you can think of: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, all of those. And if for some reason you like torture, you can watch our YouTube version of this and watch our stupid faces as well as listening to us. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the second season of Films and Fika
2021.